Once again, it's time for Wes and Steve to welcome you to a brand new episode of View the Right Thing. And they welcome you with fear, terror, and mayhem. This week, Wes and Steve discuss how a young woman's ambition to break through in Hollywood takes a sinister turn in Starry Eyes. Then, the boys review another tale of a young woman's ambition taking an unexpected turn in Suspiria. Soon you will find that things aren't what they seem in this week's episode of View the Right Thing.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of View the Right Thing.
Yes, hello, and happy almost Halloween.
So, it's October, you're right. It's almost Halloween, and we've been watching spooky movies.
Oh, yeah.
On the podcast, and that's pretty exciting.
Scary movies.
Yeah. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, maybe you've never listened to the podcast before, so our podcast is kind of like a book club, but for movies. So at the end of every single episode, we draw 2 movies out of the fabled Muppet bucket.
Only 2?
Just 2. So that way you know what the next 2 movies are going to be that we're going to discuss. So you have 2 weeks to watch those movies.
It's a good long time to watch just 2 movies.
Yep. And then you can join us on the next podcast, and you won't be spoiled by anything. You'll know exactly what we're talking about when we break down scene by scene.
Yeah, that's right. You can join us right here on the next episode of Indiana Jaws. Because you haven't even said the name yet.
I did. I said View the Right Thing at the very beginning.
I don't think you did.
Dwayne, cue the playback.
Dwayne, ignore the playback.
All right, so
ignore it.
I'll be really happy if he does playback on that.
That'd be pretty cool. But right now, we're here to talk about 2 movies that we have watched and that hopefully you, the listener, have already watched. Yes. Otherwise, we're going to spoil these movies for you.
So hopefully you've watched Starry Eyes and Suspiria. Starry
Eyes from like 2014 and Suspiria from 70...
17.
Well, you're not the movie. You can say how old it is.
No, I mean, I don't remember.
Oh, I thought you were trying to hide its age.
No.
I'm going to say it's from 1812.
Probably close. You're
Dario,
probably really close.
Dario Argento's Suspiria from the year 1812.
So
that's the directress behind the curtain. Yeah?
That's a good quote. So have you seen any movies this week? Any in the theater?
I'm pretty sure. Let's see. I've seen The Martian recently. Straight Outta Compton recently.
Oh, you finally saw Straight Outta Compton?
Yeah. I didn't get to see The Final Girls yet, and I really want to see that.
Somebody was telling me. Daniel Weiss, our friend Daniel Weiss.
Sounds like something he would do.
I haven't seen a movie in the theater in a while. I need to get out. I don't have a movie buddy.
What was the last one?
Might have been Maze Runner.
Maze Runner 2.
Yeah, Scorched Trials.
Scorched Trials.
Which we already discussed last. So that means I haven't seen a movie in like 3 weeks. So
it's almost time to see another movie, for sure.
It's definitely time to see another movie. Let's go.
I feel like we saw something really recently.
You and I? No, not you and I.
You know what else opened this weekend that I want to see, but that apparently has not done very well at all?
What?
Pan.
No, yeah, that opened like a week ago.
Did it?
Yeah.
Holy shnikes.
Warner Brothers is taking a $120 to $150 million loss on that.
Oh my gosh.
They declared it already.
It is,
They declared it after opening weekend.
It's strange.
It doesn't look good.
There's been, Disney's Peter Pan. Hook.
Yeah. Which also is not exactly considered to be a great Spielberg film.
Yeah.
I think people enjoy the movie and they like it, but it's not considered to be a great film.
Right. And then there was a Pan theatrical release not too long ago with Jason Isaacs. I feel like it was
I like that one a lot. I own that one.
2007?
That one's the one that feels the closest to the book to me.
Yeah.
So.
And then there was a sci-fi Peter Pan miniseries.
Yep.
Just a few years ago. And now there's already yet another Peter Pan movie.
Right.
Why?
I don't know.
I love Peter Pan. I'll watch anything about Peter Pan. But it seems like for all these different studios to be rolling the dice on a Peter Pan thing, it's a little odd. A little odd.
It is a little odd. Well, there's a new Wiz coming out, too.
A new The Wiz.
Yep.
referring to the, what would you call that, an adaptation of The Wizard of Oz,
Yeah.
I guess you could say.
I think this has David Allen Greer
Oh,
as
cool.
the Cowardly Lion.
Nice.
I think is what I read. But that's probably a TV thing, so we don't really need to worry about that too much.
Oh, okay.
I've watched a lot of movies at home over the past, week or 2 weeks, I guess.
That's all right.
But I have not gone to the theater, and I'm a little bummed about it. So when we go into the theater, man?
Soonsies.
Yeah. AFI Fest will be a lot of movies.
Holy shnikes, you're not wrong about that.
Yeah.
I feel like something else just opened this weekend that I really need to get to, and I'm kind of amazed that I wasn't there opening night.
I'll tell you what I want to
What
see
was it?
that opened.
What?
My boy Spielberg has a new film.
Spielberg's new film, yeah.
Bridge of Spies.
Bridge of
with Tom Hanks.
Spies, right.
I need to get on that.
Apparently that opened against Tom Hanks' son's new documentary about... what did he make his documentary about? Now I've forgotten. I listened to him talk about the whole thing on a podcast the other day. Can't remember what his documentary's about.
Yeah, I don't know.
Something cool.
Colin Hanks, huh?
Colin Hanks, the man, the myth, the Emmy-nominated actor, opened his documentary on the same weekend as his father's Bridge of Spies opened. And now I can't remember what... Oh, it's about Tower Records. Boom!
I was going to say, is it about music? That's
We
interesting.
remembered it, yeah.
So, Bridge of Spies, I think, is a Disney film.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's Spielberg's first movie with Disney.
Whoa.
Yeah.
But there was no, 10-minute preview at Disneyland.
Yeah, right? Yeah, in the Captain EO area.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, I did notice on Monday Night Football
Yeah.
that commercial ran just about every commercial break.
Wait, isn't Monday Night Football on NBC?
It is on ESPN,
ESPN.
which is owned by ABC, which is owned by Disney.
There you have it.
Yep,
There you have it.
there you have it.
That's why there's an ESPN zone at Disneyland's downtown Disney.
I'm sure that's probably.
I'm gonna
good-
cough
good
really
reason.
loud.
Oh no, he's gonna cough, you guys. I'm sorry. I gave him my sickness, and he's gonna take a sip of tea instead. Hopefully, you got cough drops there.
Yeah, but I don't want to be clacking a cough drop around while I'm on the mic.
You know, it is
Because
what
when
it
I
is.
rock up on the mic, I rock the mic, right?
The Viewsters, they understand.
They do, because most of these viewsters live in places where fall and winter actually exist.
I want to give a shout out to a Viewster,
Which one?
Katie.
Hi, Katie.
Katie and Ryan, my friends, who I
Katie.
play video games and whatnot with.
You're so grady.
Katie was telling me she's been listening to the podcast, so I just want to say, hey, how's it going?
I need to work in a song lyric for Ryan, too. Katie, you're so grady.
Yeah.
Ryan is never gonna be crying with Katie. She's grady, because she's got Ryan.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Now they have a theme song.
Enjoy it.
Okay, so maybe we should get to the movies, because I'm more than I can't explain how excited I am.
To talk about Suspiria?
No, to draw new movies out of the bucket.
Oh. So you want to do that now instead of at the end?
No, we'll do it at the end. But
Oh, okay.
I want to talk about the movies so we can get to
I understand. All right.
drawing them up.
All right.
Okay. So, you want to take us on a starry-eyed journey?
Oh, we're going to start with Starry Eyes?
I think so. That's the movie we watched first.
All righty.
It's not normal for Steve to lead the first film,
That's true.
but he's gonna give it a shot here.
All right. Boy, Starry Eyes, where does it begin? Sadly, Starry Eyes begins just about every week of every year since coming to Hollywood to pursue your dream has become a trend in America. That's where Starry Eyes begins.
Sure.
But really, it starts with a young girl, a young actress, by the name of Sarah Walker. Sarah's a lovely young lady, trying to make it as an actress in Hollywood. She's clearly somewhat new in town,
Yep.
and she's working at a restaurant called Big Taters.
Dictators, which is almost like a more fast foody version of Hooters.
Yes.
Almost.
It's almost like if you mixed Hooters with maybe I don't know, maybe a Tommy's Burger or something like that.
I don't think that many of our listeners know what Tommy's Burger is.
Well, when you come to L.A., Viewsters, you can take Wes and I to lunch at a Tommy's Burgers any day.
Okay. You want to
Any
go to
day.
Tommy's? I haven't had the greatest.
I eat Tommy's like once a week.
What?
Well, I live near a really good Tommy's. Maybe
So-
the one you live near ain't that good.
So I live by Tommy's Original. Really? No, they're all called
I feel
Tommy's
like they all
original
say
ones.
that, yeah.
So Tommy's, for those that are listening that don't know, is like a cheeseburger place. They put chili on everything.
Chili on your cheeseburger, chili on your hamburger, your hot dog. You can get a bowl of chili if you want. Yeah. Chili on your fries. Chili.
Yeah, so it's like... But it's like they sort of... They're Tommy's original hamburgers. Yeah. But chili's on everything. Chili is the main thing there. So
the chili is the star. And it's the kind of place you go when you want a gut bomb. Like when you want to eat something that's just going to make you not crave food for the next 6 hours.
Or if you're incredibly drunk.
But let's get back to Starry Eyes, because Sarah, she's clocked in at Big Taters. She's working hard. Mm-hmm. And, good old, what's his name? Pat Healy plays her boss. Carl, is that his name? Carl? Yeah. And what's the actress who plays Sarah? I keep forgetting
Alex Esso.
Alex Esso?
Essoe.
That sounds incorrect.
I have it on my phone in front of me.
That's her name? Alex Esso?
Alex Esso.
Well, okay. I thought for sure it was something different.
How dare you?
Well, Alex Esso, as Sarah Walker, works at Big Taters. She's got dreams of making it in Los Angeles as an actress, a young ingenue, I guess you would say. We very early in the film, we meet some friends of hers when she goes to a party. Among them is the scorchingly hot Erin, played by, I have her name written down somewhere.
Scorchingly hot, huh?
Oh, yeah. You didn't think Erin was scorchingly hot?
No.
I love that girl. I recognized her when I watched the movie. I recognized her from some commercial I'd seen her in a lot. And I was just like, well, there's that girl from the commercial. And she's wonderful. But in this movie, she plays kind of a jerk.
I actually kind of thought the Sarah character was a prettier girl.
Sarah's beautiful, too.
Yeah.
They're both beautiful in very different ways.
Scorchingly hot, though.
I'm saying it.
All right, fair enough.
I'm saying it. You don't have to agree.
No, I don't. I understand.
I'll accept fan mail from actress, I have it written down here somewhere.
The only scorchingly hot girl I know is my wife.
Hi-oh, well played. Well played, sir. Wes is married, I'm not.
Ladies, tweet at Steve and Wood if you're looking for a good time.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm not some sort of gigolo. I'm not even a Michelob.
Okay.
Michelob, send us beer. So we meet some of her friends. Erin is, she's quite the one-upsman. She kind of is like, oh yeah, Katie, did you get that commercial? Oh, sorry, because I actually did get it. You would have hated it anyway if you'd gotten it, blah, blah, blah.
I wouldn't call her one-upsman. I would call her a stone-cold bitch.
Whoa, I don't like using the B word when I talk about ladies.
I'm just like, trying to...
You're going for the jugular.
I'm just trying to sort of cut right to the chase.
Yeah.
This girl is nasty. I don't like her.
See, I don't know if she's nasty though, because she doesn't really play mean.
No, she's a mean girl.
But she's a mean girl, but she doesn't really get mean.
No. She plays a mean girl.
Yeah, but she's not like, ew, Sarah, what are you doing here? She's like, oh, good to see you, and then
which is worse. That's
backhanded
way worse.
Jab, right?
That's way worse.
Kind of, but at least she knows she should be nice to keep up appearances.
She's not a total monster, and I'll address that again closer to the end of the
right
when we get to this. But
she's going through the same insecurities Sarah's going through, but what she's failing to realize is that they'd be stronger if they worked together.
Sure.
I feel like I'm hearing my cheeks slapping against my teeth in these new headphones right now.
I think you're okay.
Okay. Oh boy, where are we? All right, so at the party, Sarah gets a call. She's got an audition, and all the girls and everybody is like, oh, great, that's great. And Erin, boops Sarah on the head, and right then Sarah wakes up, and she's in the audition, and it's not cool. And she starts to bleed from her scalp in the audition, and everything's going terrible. And oh my gosh, thank God, it's only a dream.
The guys
bad dream
auditioning her in the bad dream are the director and producer of Starry Eyes.
That's pretty cool. What are their names? We should give them a shout out. You look that up, and I'm going to mention this. So earlier in the movie, when Sarah's at work at Big Taters, her boss is giving her a hard time because she's focusing on answering phone calls and sneaking her phone around and trying to make auditions happen rather than doing her job at Big Taters. So after he gives her a hard time, she yanks some of her own hair out of her scalp to help her feel normal. And it's kind of intense.
It's very intense, and the sound that it makes when she pulls her hair out is...
It's such a gnarly, crunching sound.
Yeah, so that's interesting. You brought up her work at Big Taters, and she gets a phone call.
Yeah.
And her boss is like, you can't be on the phone, blah, 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 blah. And one of my favorite parts of the movie is, the Big Taters outfits are like white T-shirts.
And like spandex pants.
Yeah, they're like
that
they're
look
like
bubbly beer, yeah.
Yeah. I thought they were supposed to be like potato eyes.
Oh, to me it looked like bubbly beer.
Oh, maybe. It might be. Suds.
Let's watch it again.
Suds or spuds, either way. So,
Suds or spuds.
So she walks away, and he's like, "Where does she even hide the phone?"
Right.
And that was one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Good.
Because it's true. Like, where would? Well, they show later on.
Yeah, she keeps it on her front bum.
Yeah.
That can't be a good place to keep your smell phone. Anyway, so fortunately, Sarah had the audition with the bleeding scalp, but that was all just a nightmare. Now it's time for the real audition at Astraeus Pictures.
Astraeus.
I have a feeling that means something having to do with stars.
It does. It's Greek mythology, actually.
Oh, yeah. Who was Astraeus?
Well, okay. Now you're gonna see. I don't want to like say something that's not quite right. So now
I understand. Well, you do that, and I'll talk about. She goes into Astraeus, and on her way in, some poor girl is running out, crying her eyes out, and it's like, oh boy, this might not be the most fun audition for Sarah, who likes to yank her own hair out of her head when she doesn't feel right. Inside the audition room, waiting for her, is a wonderful actress by the name of Maria Olsen, who was once on my old radio show, and is great, and she does a lot of really cool stuff. So check out Maria Olsen. And she's also working with a guy in this scene named Mark Center, and they play the, what would you call them? The casting directors, huh?
Yeah.
And they're both very cold towards Sarah. She talks about how, oh, do you want a headshot? And they're like, what? Mark Center is he just plays like probably the most lovable, snarky, like, I don't want to say jerk, but almost
he's dismissive.
Dismissive, absolutely. Yeah. And he's just like, Sarah, he's almost got a little bit of a Lorne Michaels thing going on. He's just like, what you're about to do is what we need to see. A picture isn't going to change that. And he's just like, he dismisses her in such a way that it's like, ooh, that was mean. But then it's like, if you think about it, it's like, no, he just really cut right to the quick of the situation.
Right.
You have information there.
I do. Astraeus is was the Titan god of the stars and planets.
Holy moly.
Which makes sense. Their symbol, their logo was a star, like a shooting star.
Kind of looks a lot like a pentagram, if you ask Steve.
Well, there's a little bit of that going on in there, too.
Astraeus Pictures. Well, guess what?
What?
Sarah does the audition. It doesn't go all that great. She runs right into the bathroom at the casting office. She starts freaking out, screaming and crying, and she starts yanking out her own hair.
Oh, yeah. She freaks out.
Yeah, and she's having a really hard time, and when she comes out of the stall, Maria Olsen, actress Maria Olsen, is right there in her face, and she's like, if you can do that for your audition,
she's like, you've got my attention now.
You've got my attention now, yeah. So Sarah goes back into the room.
I want to talk about the hair pulling real quick, because it was this scene that really struck me, that she spends her time, maybe you can address this as an actor, she seems to spend her time like building this sort of persona and this building herself up and creating an image.
Yeah.
And then when it doesn't go right, she gets too emotional, she begins tearing apart that image, like literally tearing apart that image.
Yeah. And that image that is her.
Yeah, and there's an interesting moment after the first time she tears some of her hair out, and she goes to that party.
Yeah.
And one of her friends is like, "Did you do something different to your hair?" And tries to touch her hair, and she's like,
right,
no. And it's because she's yanked some of her hair out, and it looks different now. But I mean, is that like can you address that as an actor, like sort of this like pressure to like build something, and then do you ever like self-sabotage like that? Is that like you think that's just a character specific thing?
I mean, I'm sure it happens a lot. I self-sabotage in other ways.
Yeah.
But I mean, see, part of my persona is, the very laid back guy that I am. And recently I was turned down to play a very creepy guy in a horror movie because the casting directors know me too well, and they know that I'm very funny, and I don't give them the creeps in our personal life.
Too friendly.
So it's almost like Steve couldn't possibly be a creep, but meanwhile I'm a gigantic man, and I can, I've got this big shaggy beard, and I can, at first glance, look like as creepy a guy as you would never hope to meet.
You do put off a very lovable teddy bear type.
That's true, I do. In my real life.
Yeah.
So these casting directors who know me very, very well, they were just like, you're just too funny for this part. And I was like, come on, you know that I'm not too funny for anything.
Are you like I'm an actor?
Yeah. But we won't go into that because they're viewsters.
Are they?
I don't know.
Viewsters.
I like to assume they are. But they're swell guys. They actually just wrapped the other day. Lots of fun. I'm looking forward to watching this movie at the premiere. So, Sarah goes back into the audition room. She proceeds to have basically a non-verbal freak out in front of these two casting directors. And
writhing on the floor.
Writhing on the floor, yanking on her hair, just kind of screaming and crying and screaming and just really letting it all out. I don't think she says a word. She really just freaks out for them. And they tell her, that was great.
They'll be in touch.
They'll be in touch. She takes off. And I think at that point, does she notice that Maria Olsen's character is indeed wearing the Astraeus pentagram star? It's funny because it's like a pentagram like you would expect to see on Satanists, but then it's got kind of a line coming off of it that almost suggests maybe the star is in zooming mode.
Right, like a shooting star.
Like a shooting star, something like that.
Yep.
You shoot movies. Mm-hmm. Shooting stars. So, what happens? She goes back to work. No big deal.
Do we talk about the boy that she meets?
The director guy?
Yeah.
Danny?
I want to say Danny.
I feel like his name's Danny. He's been in a lot of fun movies. He was in Brick. He's in pretty much everything Rian Johnson directs.
Right.
And he was in Looper. He had a really funny part in Looper. So yes.
So Danny is he's a aspiring director.
A nice boy, an aspiring director. He does offer Sarah drugs at one point. When she asks, do you have any champagne? He instead goes and gets pills.
Well, that's a little bit later.
Of some point.
That's
right,
after
right.
her callback.
Right. That is after the callback. Because what happens? She goes to the callback.
Yep, and this time they're like, take them clothes off.
They bring her into a completely dark room.
Yeah.
And they tell her to stand in this one little spot of light and disrobe.
And she can't really see who's behind the light.
Cannot see who's in the room with her.
That's based on a story that the writer heard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, about an audition for David Lynch.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a very Lynchian scene, I'll give you that much.
Yeah, well, the whole movie's got a very, David Lynch, David Cronenberg kind of thing going on. And lots of, body image stuff and sort of mutation.
Ooh.
There's some The Fly, they did that remake of The Fly.
Yeah.
And there's some of that.
Did those two work together on that?
No, but that's, Cronenberg, right?
Oh, okay.
So
I believe so.
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh. Cronenberg did Videodrome too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, Videodrome. Watch at your own risk. So, Sarah, she gets the call back. She's in this room. It's dark. They just keep flashing this light at her. She's, again, having, this time, almost sort of an orgasmic freak out. She's she's not screaming in, anguish. She's sort of more just letting something wash over her.
Possibly, rubbing her body all over.
Yeah.
It's implied. You don't see anything. You don't.
No.
At this point,
you see her face.
You see her face
and a whole lot of
shoulders
darkness
and stuff. Yeah.
And then it's at times you see her face flash, and she's got fangs, and she's kind of gnarly looking.
Fingernails.
Yeah.
And but it's sort of an ecstasy kind of thing.
Yeah. It's almost like she's being seduced by some sort of evil force in the room.
Yeah.
Speaking of non-evil forces in the room,
we got a creeper in here.
Should we give a shout out to Dez?
What's up, Dez? How you doing? She's trying to sneak out the front door. That's all right. You do your thing. All right, get those shoes on. Yeah, so
shoes are important.
Hey, what did you think of Starry Eyes?
I liked it.
You liked it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She just said 10 stars.
10 stars from
out of
points.
Out of 10.
All right. Sounds great.
I'll be right back.
All right. See you later.
Okay.
So yeah. So there's that sort of kind of sexy.
Yeah, it's almost like she's being seduced by something within herself.
Yeah.
Did I already say that?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, and I think that's again. I'll kind of address the monster in the room at the end of this thing. Desi's making some noise.
Oh, you saw a monster in the room?
No. I'm saying the monster in the room is something that I think needs to be addressed at like the elephant in the room, but instead of the elephant, I was using the term monster.
Well, it's funny you say that because I've seen this movie before.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it alone many months ago, and when this scene came around again, I thought for sure somewhere in that scene was a shot of some sort of monster in the room with her.
Oh, no,
and then
I
it didn't happen.
Yeah,
and I was like, maybe I just glanced away and missed it completely.
Well, there is a monster in the room, but again, we'll talk about that at the end.
Okay. So she does an amazing job, and they're just like, that was great. We'll be in touch, something like that.
Yeah.
She goes away. I think she quits her job at Big Taters at that point because, she gets busted with her phone again. Her boss is like, yeah, this is Big Taters. He's like, I know it's kind of a ridiculous place, but it's what pays my rent. It's what pays these girls' rent, and you're not being a good team player right now.
That was a really nice, real kind of moment for that character, too, because normally that character, especially a character played by Pat Healy, tends to be somebody who doesn't recognize the absurdity in the situation necessarily. So for him to say, I get that it's kind of ridiculous, I thought was a really nice moment.
Agreed. And I also thought it was cool that they didn't make him out to be just a complete sleazeball. Mm-hmm. Because let me tell you, the restaurant industry is rife with complete sleazeballs.
Right.
And I thought it was cool that they were like, no, here's a guy who came up with a corny gimmick, and it's kind of a sleazy gimmick, but he himself is, trying to make the best of this situation.
And he sort of tries to inspire her a little bit. He sort of says, I know you've got something in you.
Yeah.
I don't know, acting's not for everybody, but you're good at this job, and I know that you've got something in you that is worthwhile.
Yeah.
But you're not really committing.
Yeah.
Here, and she's like, you're right. I do have something special in me, and I'm not committing to my acting.
Yeah, and she quits her job at Big Taters. Heaven help us. She gets another call back. She's asked to meet. Yeah.
Well, there's there's a pool party. She quits her job and then goes to the pool party, right? And the girls, the two mean girls, kind of poke fun at her. And one of the girls,
and they poke fun at Estrella's pictures too.
Yeah.
They're like, Estrellas, don't they just make stupid horror movies?
Yeah.
And her director buddy's like, no, they're legit though. They've been in business a while. They're on the upswing. And then what happens to one of those girls that was making fun of Sarah and Estrella's pictures?
Do we see how she hurts herself?
No.
We just hear her scream.
Well, we see them jumping up and down near the pool to get pictures of midair fun girls at a party jumps.
Not even jumping very high.
Right, just kind of bouncing on the balls of their feet, and then all of a sudden we see her scream, and she is bleeding from her nose.
There's blood all over the ground and stuff. Yeah. And Sarah laughs. And
she does.
Her best friend.
Her best friend and roommate.
Yeah, what's her name?
I want to say Richard. No, it's not Richard. She's a girl. Marlene? I have a Mar in there.
I don't remember her name. So her roommate is kind of, I don't want to use the word repulsed, but kind of upset and shocked that Sarah laughs at them. But she does give her this kind of what the?
Yeah, she's like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Why would you laugh at that? That's our friend down there.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. All these other people are friends. Sarah is a bit of an outsider. Despite the fact that she's really cute. Oh, boy. So then what happens?
Then she gets the call.
She gets the call back.
Yeah.
Well, the call to come meet the producer.
And she gets dolled up.
Oh, yeah. She looks like $1 million.
For this meeting. And she comes out, and her friends are all sitting there, and of course, the mean girl is like, don't you think you're wearing too much? Don't you think it's a little much? And her other friends are like, no, you look great. And she's like, yeah, it's a little much.
Yeah, because the mean girl, she's got to get that. She's got to throw that nag in there.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what they call it, the pickup artists. It's like, oh yeah, compliment them and then throw in a negative thing to throw them off their game, and then you control it. That's sort of sick stuff.
Yeah.
Sarah goes to the whatchamacallit. She goes to this pretty nice house somewhere in
No.
LA.
She goes to the Astraeus offices the first time.
No, to meet with the producer?
Yeah, it's in his office. Because she goes back there and bangs on the door and stuff. And then she gets a call to go to the house later. And he talks about how all of these people, we've made a lot of stars in this office.
Right.
Is what he says.
Talks about how he's a gatekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
This will launch her career. Astraeus Pictures. Let me put my hand up your dress. And boy, does he.
Well, it's interesting because he starts out very, we see a lot of potential in you, and I think this is the big deal, and we want to offer you the part. I mean, he flat out says that from across the desk.
Right.
And then he moves around to the front, and he puts his hand on her leg, on her knee.
Yeah.
She's a little uncomfortable. And then as he starts talking more and more about what she needs to do, she's like, I'll do anything for this role. And he just
Sarah.
moves his hand right up that skirt. And it's implied he touches something because she gets up pretty quick.
She does. And I wish she'd gotten up even sooner.
Yeah.
Because, now she's had a very unfortunate situation come out of this here meeting.
So she leaves. She bolts.
And
the
she's
producer
out the door.
looks at Maria Olsen's character and just like, what the? I thought we had something here.
Yeah. And so he's bummed. And Sarah is heartbroken because heartbroken. Because her dream is now shattered.
And she runs home and cries and tells her roommate, Tracy, what happened.
Yeah.
And Tracy's like, wait, did he want to... Ew, gross.
Oh, no. And she's like, because we don't do that. We don't do that, right, Sarah? We don't, right?
Yeah.
Saying, like, I trust that you didn't today, but I'm hoping you won't tomorrow.
Right. Then she's like, hey, we're going to Danny's place.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually everybody's place, it seems like.
Yeah, it seems like they all just live in one house, and Danny lives in a van outside of that house.
Yeah, that's what we find out, is Danny lives in a van. So
a minivan.
Danny lives in the van. Meanwhile, the mean girl, the girl who breaks her nose, and their other kind of, slacker friend who kind of has a bad attitude the whole movie. He's pretty much there just to deliver one-liners, it seems like.
Yeah, I do love the scene where he's drumming on the back of his ukulele.
Yeah.
And then he says, hey, does anybody know how to scat? As if scat singing is something you have to know how to do.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on scat singing.
Okay. So,
oh boy.
So she goes there, and it's implied that Danny is with the mean girl already.
Also, when she's meeting with the producer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before he puts the moves on her, he's doing a lot of talking about how there are a lot of talkers in this town.
I was going to address that. I'm so glad you said that.
There are a lot of talkers who talk and talk about what they're going to do. He's like, what is it? This world is for the doers, Sarah. You're a doer. So as she's at this party now, she's realizing, oh, these guys sure keep talking about a whole lot of stuff. But what are they doing? They're smoking weed and drinking every night of the week.
But she has a one-on-one conversation with Danny where Danny tells her essentially the same thing. I'm tired of being around all these people who are just talking, and we're going to make this movie, and I want you to be in it because we're going to do this thing. And I think it's important because it's important that you're in it because you're special and you have something to offer and all this stuff. And he sort of says in a slightly different way the exact same thing that the Astraeus producer says. And in some ways, some of the same things that Carl says at Big Taters.
Yeah.
There's this sort of male presence in her life where there are people who are saying you're special, but none of them seem to be able to do anything about that.
Except
for one, which
the evil, sleazy producer of Astraeus
Right.
Pictures.
and this is where Danny gives her drugs, right?
Yeah, he's like, yeah, because he says, I'm going to make you the lead in my movie. And now we've already heard him say he's going to make Smoking Hot Aaron the lead in his movie.
yeah.
And she's like, oh, really? I'm going to be the lead? I'm going to be what's-her-name's character? And he's just like, yeah, man. She's like, well, then we should have some champagne. And instead he goes into his home van and brings out pills. And he takes a pill and he pops a pill in her mouth. And then, what is it? Cut to them all jumping into the pool together like
she doesn't
Garden
jump.
State.
Yeah.
She doesn't jump, but then she jumps in after everybody, right?
Yeah, and she's completely separate from everyone. Everyone's having a good time at one end of the pool.
Yeah.
And she's realizing that she's missing out on something.
Right. She realizes that these guys are all talkers.
Right.
They keep talking about, why don't we all just come together and make a movie and make a great movie and come
she's
together.
not one of them.
And all they do when they get together is party and
Yeah.
not actually produce anything. She runs inside, calls Astraeus Pictures, if I'm not mistaken, and they say, be at this address in an hour.
Well, no, I think she freaks out and she goes to Astraeus, the offices, right?
Oh, she does?
Because there's
She
that
just
homeless
runs
guy.
straight there?
There's that homeless guy there, right?
Yeah.
She gets. Yeah, I think she goes there. She goes there, and she beats up that homeless guy.
She
and bangs on
smacks him around.
Yeah, she bangs on the door, and then she goes back home and makes the phone call.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then she almost immediately gets a phone call back saying, "Be at this house in
Yeah.
1 hour," and she gets tarted up.
She gets dolled up again, only this time, before she wore red, now she wears all black.
And this is not dolled. This is like
streetwalkered
up.
Yeah, this is like, I'm going to a hotel to meet a man who's
Right.
going to pay me for sexual favors.
Yep.
Dolled up. So she goes. She takes the train there, oddly enough.
Yeah, they did not have a permit for that.
Oh, really?
It's a fun fact. Yeah,
No permit for that train shot.
No permit for the train. I wondered about that throughout many shots of the movie. They did a bunch of shooting on like Hollywood Boulevard, and it just felt like there was a girl walking around Hollywood Boulevard, and they just had a camera. They were following her.
Oh.
But yeah, so
Scary.
So she goes out to the house.
Yeah, she
Goes
goes
to the
out now
producer's
to the
house.
producer's house, and basically, long story short,
She starts. She gets on her knees.
she hits the knees, and he comes out from around his desk and stands up right in front of her, and we see that he's got the pentagram symbol burned onto the back of his right hand,
When he grabs her head.
and he's kind of, he grabs her head and he's looking up and, sort of addressing something up above, and then these real scary, like, just guys,
Robed people.
they're wearing like hoods and robes, and they have these really like dull black masks on. Like it looks like what is it, on piano keys?
Sure, like that matte finish.
Yeah, just like that super like flattest black you can get on their faces, and they've got black makeup around their eyes. And these dudes look like they are just shadow people, and they sort of walk into the room to observe the producer,
Yep.
getting his advanced thank you from poor Sarah here.
Yeah.
Sarah wakes up the next day at home, and she doesn't feel well at all. She's getting all sickly looking. Her hair's all strung out.
Well, and he tells her
Her
that
nose is bright red. Yeah.
and he tells her before she gets on her knees that she's going to have to lose everything. She's going to change who she
Right.
is completely.
I think he says you're going to have to kill your former self.
Yeah, and your
be
friend,
reborn.
lose your friends, and all this stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So he tells her, like, you're about to transform. Like, here it goes. This is the beginning of it. And so she's real sickly. She looks like garbage. She's still working. She's back to work at Big Taters. And at one point,
To like go home
because she's literally standing in like the pickup window, just drooling
into the taters.
into somebody's fries.
Yeah.
And her boss comes up, and he's just like, "You got to go home." And she's like, "F you, boss." And I think she smacks him in the face, right?
She smacks him and like throws some stuff. 'Cause
Yeah.
They fight over the fries.
Yeah. Yeah, she wants to go deliver the fries, I
Yeah,
guess,
take them
and
to
he's
the-
just like, no, go home, and they throw the fries, and then I think she smacks him in the face.
And he's like, "Get the F out."
He's like, you get the F out of here, don't ever come back, I don't want to see you again, blah, blah, blah. Then it's like she's out with her friends, and they're just kind of in some sort of strange wooded area.
You know what? You were right. This is when she goes and smacks up the hobo.
Is it?
This is when because she's sick. She
Okay.
leaves because they're out like in like a culvert,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
they're like, dude.
And well, she's like
dumb.
starting to take her top off, and one of the dudes is like, "Yeah, let's get pictures of this." And one of the girls is like, "No, stop
Tracy.
it, you idiot!" Yeah,
Tracy stops
Tracy's
them.
like, she's like, "Knock that crap off." And Sarah turns on Tracy.
Yeah.
because basically,
And smacks her.
yeah, because basically Tracy is blocking the attention from being on Sarah.
Yeah, I apologize for mixing up those scenes.
Well, that's okay.
You know.
There's a lot of going to the place and not being.
I'm apologizing
allowed in.
to the viewsters mostly.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry I betrayed you, viewsters.
Well, I want you to apologize to me
I'm sorry, Steve.
for making me think that you were apologizing to me.
I'm sorry.
You don't have to, really. Could you hand me that iced tea real quick? Because I'm going to go on a tirade.
I can't reach that.
Okay, I'll make it work. I'm going to go on a tirade here. So Sarah is just like full board, like, I'm going to be a movie star now, and I'm hideous right now, but like, yeah, things are going to change. And, she gives her friends a hard time. So then,
And her and stuff starts falling out and
yeah,
falling apart.
her
hair
hair's
starts falling out on
falling
its own.
out. She has that, I think this happens a little bit later.
She's vomiting daily.
Yeah, she's vomiting daily. She, at one point, is just eating yogurt over the sink, just using her fingers
And
as
that's
a
not
spoon.
working for her.
And that's not working at all. Her roommate is like, "Yo, dog, I don't know what's wrong with you, but, like, are you going to pay the rent?" She's like, "I've covered the rent for you, like, for the last 2 months, and you are a mess, and, you've quit your job." And
Well, Sarah's like, hey, you guys don't understand. You're all fake. They're not my friends. You're
Yeah.
not my friend. She basically, this is where she begins to sort of like lose her friends. She's,
Yeah.
you guys are all fake and you're not real. And she's like, not real. Like, I've been taking care of you. That's real.
that's real. Sarah goes into her room. She finds a bundle of money in an envelope
An Estrellas envelope.
from Estrellas Pictures. So she comes back and she throws the money in Tracy's face. She's like, "Here, now it's our apartment again." And then, amazingly, does not physically assault her after that.
Yeah.
But I thought she was going to.
But she runs back into her room and collapses on the bed.
Yeah, and then is that when she has the
dream?
not all that fun vomit scene? Oh,
Well, so she has the dream where she sees herself as this like beautiful, almost like a pinup. Like
yeah.
her hair
like a
is
full-on,
great, and
what do you call that? A matinee idol? Or is that
Yeah.
does that only apply to guys?
well, I mean that's I get what you're saying.
But yeah, she looks like a classic movie star.
Almost 40s.
Yeah, just like, here is the talk of the town.
And she
Sarah
sees,
Walker.
She sees this Sarah Walker standing at the end of her bed, looking at her.
Yeah.
And she's got the necklace on.
Yeah, the Estrellas pentagram necklace with the line coming out of it.
And then she wakes up.
Oh.
And she runs to the bathroom, and she's got some serious issues.
She does.
She's got stuff coming out of all sorts of orifices.
And it's not food.
No, it's slimy
Some of it is
and
food.
bloody and gross.
Some of it is food to birds.
Sure. Yeah, so she, in the shower, she vomits bugs.
Maggots.
Want to hear another fun fact?
I'm not sure if I do.
Alex Esso.
Yeah? Is that her name?
I looked it up.
I want to double check.
I could be saying it
that
wrong.
just seems wrong. I feel like I've looked up the names of the people in these movies 100 times and just can't remember.
All right, I'm on it right now.
No, I'm looking it up. You
Alex
tell your story.
Esso. Look right here.
I'm
I'm
looking
on
it up.
IMDb. Look, Alex Esso. She's got starry eyes as her profile picture.
I
on
guess
IMDb.
so, huh?
She put the bugs in her mouth for reals
Whoa.
for the vomit scene because she chose to, method act.
Wow. Alex, thumbs up to you. I could maybe do it, but I would want those bugs to be the cleanest bugs they could possibly find.
Right. So that happens.
Wash off them bugs.
She starts pulling her fingernails off.
Oh, gross! Yeah, I forgot about that because I refused to write it down, and I couldn't look at the
Yeah.
screen.
That's a tough one.
Viewsters, if you ever want to creep me out, just mention the idea of fingernail trauma, and I will leave the room. You don't even have to show anything. Just say the phrase fingernail pull, and I'm out.
It's icky, and like I definitely get that feeling when I'm watching it, but I can still watch it. There is a scene recently that dealt with a finger trauma that I did have a little bit of a hard time watching. I watched that movie Annabelle, which was sort of like a prequel to The Conjuring.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a scene where the main character is sewing, and they keep showing her finger getting closer and closer and closer to the sewing machine. No. Oh man, that's an intense scene. Yeah,
I don't like that at all.
It was tough to watch. The rest of the movie's like, but that was a tough scene to watch.
Oh, gross.
So,
Where the
most
heck were we?
of her hair is gone.
Yeah.
And the phone rings, and she picks up the phone, and it's the producer, right?
Yeah.
And he tells her, you either die, just stay being sick and die,
Right.
or embrace the transformation.
Embrace it, Sarah.
Become like us. Become like us.
Join us in the sky.
So
Bury your old self in the ground.
she gets her.
Join us in the
She
sky.
gets a hoodie on.
She does. A white hoodie, which is a strange
Choice.
outfit choice to go sneaking
When you're
around in the dark.
Bleeding out of every orifice. Yeah.
That too.
Yeah.
That too.
And she ends up at the house where Danny lives,
Where all her
Danny and
friends
Aaron
live.
and all those, everybody but Tracy.
Yeah.
And she goes to Danny's minivan, and he's in there with Aaron.
Having sex.
Yeah, well, they're at least cuddling for sure. I can't remember if they actually show them doing
Yeah,
it or
maybe they're
anything,
just having a cuddle.
but it's clear they have been having sex.
Right. In a minivan that's got bookshelves in it.
Yeah, and so Aaron is going to go get something to drink, and she gets out of the van and goes in the house, and of course, Sarah's in the house.
She's already in the house, and she's found herself a knife.
Yep. And they have this sort of fight, but Aaron says, we're freaking worried about you. You're losing your mind.
Yeah.
And all of your friends, we're all worried about you. We want to help get you some help. And when she sees her, she's like, you need to go to the hospital right now.
Yeah. She's got the hood up, but once the lights come on, it's just like, whoa, this poor girl has devolved into some sort of ghoul.
Yeah. And so there's a bit of a struggle. She goes to, like, get her and physically take her, and there's a bit of a struggle. And they fight, they argue, and they call each other names, I believe. And
Sarah
yeah, go for it.
slashes Aaron's exquisite face with a cheese knife.
Yeah, and I almost kind of
slashes it so disgustingly wide open.
It's interesting because you're supposed to definitely hate Aaron.
Yeah.
But it's different than the characters you hate, like in a slasher film.
Right.
Especially because she's just expressed this concern for Sarah. But there is some sort of, like, almost poetic justice. Now, I'm not suggesting anybody goes out and slashes anybody's face.
No.
Anything like that. But in a fictional thematic sense, there's almost this poetic justice where this girl is sort of ragging on other people's looks to keep them down so she can go out and get jobs.
Yeah.
And the thing that happens to her is her pretty face gets cut up really bad. I mean, she's gushing blood.
It's awful.
Yeah.
It's really, really awful and
It's
gross.
bad. And I don't advocate violence. I'm just saying thematically for the sake of the story, there is something interesting there. But
now, does she then leave Sarah or leave Aaron alive and go kill the other two and then come back to Aaron? I feel like that's what happens.
I kind of think so, yes.
Because she then goes into one bedroom, and the girl who had bloodied her nose by the pool is asleep. And Sarah picks up a free weight, a little dumbbell,
Well, there's kind of a funny moment right before that, because she's in the kitchen, standing over the bleeding and maybe unconscious body of Aaron.
Yeah.
And the boyfriend comes out of the room.
Right.
And he's like, sup. And
yeah,
he just continues on to the bathroom, because he's kind of out of it and probably high.
Yeah, and he does not see the full bloodbath. He just sees somebody's in the kitchen, says, what's up?
And then she goes to go where Tracy is.
Not Tracy, but the other friend.
I'm sorry, not Tracy, the other friend, the broken nose friend.
She proceeds to smash her face into a puddle
and
with
it's sticky.
Maybe a 5-pound dumbbell, or maybe 10. It didn't look very heavy.
No.
Which is why it took so many swings and smashes.
Yeah.
And it is so gross.
The way it, like, sticks to the dumbbell when she picks it up. It's pretty graphic.
I wish you had reminded me of that just now.
Yeah.
Then the boyfriend comes out of the bathroom, and she just, like, trips him and stabs him in the back a bunch of times.
I thought she hits him with the dumbbell, too.
He screams a lot. Maybe is that it? She just kind of hits him in the face, and he falls over?
I think she bludgeons him with that, too, as well.
But, yeah, then she does, like, a Zodiac, just gets down over his back and just turns him
He
into
tries
a
to
pincushion.
He tries to crawl away, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's awful.
And then she finishes the job with Aaron.
Finishes the job with Aaron, and then goes out to deal with Danny. She's sitting on the little bench outside of Danny's van. What does Danny hop out to go looking for Aaron and sees that Sarah's there?
Yeah.
And he's just sort of like, hey, what's going on? And
He sits down next to her.
yeah, and he sees her ghoulish face. And then, what is it? Doesn't she just reach over and just slice his throat while he's talking or something? It's pretty sad and gnarly and awful.
She sticks it in his chest, I believe.
Oh, man.
Because she leaves the knife sticking out of his chest, if I remember correctly.
Oh, why?
Could be wrong, but...
Why?
But she kills Danny, and she goes home.
No, she doesn't go home. Doesn't she go and the people from Astraeus?
I thought she had to kill Tracy first. Is that
No,
after?
that's after she's reborn.
After she's... Okay.
So,
Fair enough.
basically, there's sort of this loosely assembled
Parade.
of people from Astraeus pictures. They're all dressed in tuxedos and
Yeah.
fancy gowns.
Like little lamps.
And they're sort of, they're going through the night. They have they have electrical lights, and they arrange them on the ground in the pentagram shape. And, it's
There's
cut in
something
with
buried.
scenes of, something buried in plastic. And obviously it's Sarah. She's like wrapped in
Naked.
plastic, buried, naked under the ground. The people from Astraeus are saying some crazy witchcraft stuff and this and that. And then it's dawn.
Yeah.
And these hands burst up through the muddy ground.
Nasty fingernails.
And so nasty fingernails. And out rises a bald, naked, covered in dirt Sarah Walker.
And there's a present on the ground.
Movie star. Yes. The present's got a beautiful dress in it, a wig. She takes it home. Before putting it on, I think she's still bald.
Mm-hmm.
And she's in her bed. She now looks like totally pristine and clean
That's right.
and new.
That's right.
And Tracy comes in and she's like, Sarah, what the heck is going on? And she's like, oh, Tracy, come lie with me. Come say goodbye to me. Come.
Like we used to, I think is what she said.
Yeah, like lie with me like we used to. And I think she sort of puts Tracy into a trance to get her into the bed.
Well, she definitely moves her over, grabs her by the hand and pulls her down, gently, but Tracy is definitely like, okay.
Yeah, and then Sarah's just like, say goodbye to me, Trace, say goodbye to me. And I'm not even sure if she gets the word out, but Sarah just plants a kiss on her, but is essentially just draining all the blood out of her through this kiss.
Yeah.
It's pretty gnarly. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be like she bit off her tongue or what, but Tracy's laying there screaming with all this blood coming out of her mouth, and Sarah's just kind of latched on like a lamprey or maybe a leech of some sort, and she's just pulling all the blood out of her and killing her. And then Sarah gets up and wipes her mouth, puts on the wig, puts on the dress. Starry eyes.
She's got the necklace. She pulls the necklace out.
And she's got that pentagram necklace.
Yep. And that's Starry. She becomes the star.
She's going to be a movie star. Your name in lights. Those lights on a... your name on a poster. That poster in the lobby. A lobby with a marquee.
Yeah.
Whew. If you haven't seen Starry Eyes, why'd you listen to this? But if you have, you probably remember that line from the creepy producer.
I kind of liked that... we kind of touched on this idea that she builds up this persona and then has to tear it all down.
Yeah.
She does that on her own early on, which is kind of what we talked about with the hair pulling and stuff. But that willingness to do that, I think, sort of says that she's willing to do all these other things as well.
Right.
Steve's just...
Can you hear that?
Oh, yeah. So I think that she... all along was willing and ready to do all these horrific things.
Oh, man.
And that's sort of what I was talking about when I was talking about the monster in the room. The monster is Sarah. She's always been the monster. She just had to, let that thing come out.
Yeah.
And, in most movies like this, the monsters are super, super obvious. It's, it's all of the characters that we saw, the boss, but... normally he's more lecherous, and he doesn't express any compassion, or the friends are just completely mean, and they don't show any compassion. But in this, they all do, and they're the people that would normally be the monsters in a movie like this aren't actually the monsters. It's the main character, who normally would be reluctant for all this stuff to happen, but I think she's very willing. She's a willing participant.
Yeah, she just kind of has to realize it about herself.
Yeah.
Sarah Walker.
So
I wouldn't be surprised to learn that maybe one of the famous Salem witches might have been named Salem Walker. Salem Walker? Sarah Walker.
Sarah Walker, maybe.
What was it in the Crucible? Because I know they used a lot of the real names in the Crucible. Was there a Sarah Walker in the Crucible? Viewsters, tweet us at Stephen No Howood or
at Movie Hippo, or even better,
at VTRT Movies. View the Right Thing Movies.
So
let us know if there was a witch at the Salem witch trials named Sarah Walker. Sarah Walker, named Sarah Walker. It's almost Halloween. This information's going to be readily available, you guys.
Right. So Starry Eyes, you saw it. This is your second time seeing it. My first time. What did you think the second time? Did you like it?
Yeah.
I mean, a movie you enjoy?
I liked it the first time too, and I think I still like it the second time. And I almost considered actually watching it again.
Wow.
Before recording, just to really familiarize myself with it, and because I wanted to do more research.
Sure.
Because as you know, I forgot to look up a bunch of names before I got here today.
Sure. I thought the movie was all right. It wasn't my favorite of the films we've watched.
Okay.
I'm glad I saw it.
Yeah. I think it's a movie that, no matter how good you may or may not think it is, I think it's one of those horror movies that's atypical. And it should be seen so that you're not just getting kind of the same old horror movie each time.
Yeah.
Because so many of them follow a formula. And this one was very different.
Yeah.
And maybe it wasn't exactly totally groundbreaking.
No.
But it was just a very different kind of... I mean, really, there's no horror in it at all.
The horror is the gore.
Yeah, until she, pukes up the maggots. Like, that's the first horror thing.
I mean, it's horrific. The concept is horrific. I mean, being assaulted by a producer is horrific.
Horrific, yes.
It's just the horror at the beginning is a little more grounded, whereas the horror at the end is, vomiting maggots.
Right.
You're pulling your fingernails off.
Right.
That's pretty horrific.
And then, turning your friend's house into a bloodbath.
Sure.
A blood...
But who hasn't done that?
A blood bell. Who hasn't turned their friend's house into a blood... Hopefully most people have not turned their friend's house into a bloodbath. I'm glad we watched it again. What'd you say about Copycats?
Coffee Countdown?
I didn't fall asleep at all during Starry Eyes.
But you did during Suspiria.
I fell asleep at least once during Suspiria.
You're such
I dozed off pretty hardcore.
Classic film snob. A snob against classic films.
But it's not me, it's my subconscious mind. I want to stay awake and watch absolutely every frame on the screen. Sometimes my subconscious mind just goes, we can check out, and I doze off. Mm-hmm. I don't mean to do it, but it happens.
All right, let's just go ahead and just jump straight into Suspiria, unless you have something else you want to talk about.
No, I'm good. I was just double-checking my Sarah Walker Salem Witch possible tie-in.
Well, why don't I go ahead and start talking about
Suspiria.
So the Dario Argento film, an Italian film, dubbed into English, shot in Germany, where
in Rotterdam,
different actors spoke different languages in this film.
That's true.
They actually knew ahead of time. They knew ahead of time that they were going to dub this movie, so they just were like, we don't need to worry about sound. So they just shot the scenes, and in the background there's like stagehands building sets and stuff.
Whoa.
Yeah. Which I imagine is probably distracting for an actor.
That's a fast way to do it. I hear that's how they do it in Bollywood.
Yeah.
They're like, because India is so densely populated that they're just like, we're never going to be able to eliminate. We can't call quiet on the set.
Could you imagine Christian Bale on this set? You're a nice guy. But walking around. All right.
We are done professionally.
So the movie starts with a little narration about Susie Bannion, this American dancer, is coming from New York, from JFK Airport, flying into Munich.
Susie Bannion.
And she shows up at the airport, and it's a stormy night. And you see, as she's like walking through the airport terminal towards the automatic sliding doors, she sees people going outside, and as soon as people go outside, it's just like wind and lightning and craziness. And so she gets to the door and she goes outside and it's raining outside. There's actually a really cool shot showing the mechanics of the sliding glass door, like a nice close up of that.
Yeah.
It's really unique.
Yeah, I've never seen that before or since.
Yeah, and she goes outside and has a hard time hailing a cab in the rain, but eventually gets one. Meanwhile, I guess when she shows up at the dance academy that she's going to, this beautiful, beautiful building. It was built for the movie, but it's actually based on another. Yeah, I don't know the name of the building off the top of my head, but it's actually based on a building in Germany.
Oh,
a historical building. And so the cab pulls up, and the wind is howling, and it's raining. And as she pulls up, a girl opens a door,
right,
and the front door, and turns and yells something back.
Yeah,
that we can't really hear because it's so windy and rainy.
She barely turns, though.
Yeah, but it's clear she kind of yells something back into the house.
Yeah. See, when I first saw it, it looked like she came out and was yelling at the storm.
I mean, she turns kind of profile, but
okay, if you insist.
But this girl, this mysterious girl, runs out into the rain and passes Susie.
Mm-hmm.
And Susie buzzes the call box to get in.
Yes.
The door's locked. The girl shut the door behind her. And she's like, I'm Susie Banyan. I'm here from New York. I'm the new dancer, blah, blah, blah. And the girl's like, I've never heard of you. Go away. And so that she won't let her in. And so Susie has to go back to the cab and find a different place to stay for the night.
And what a place.
As the cab... Well, we don't see the place that
I know.
Susie stays.
We see a different place.
We do see a different place.
Where Judy... What's her name? Ruby D? Anyway, she's staggering through the woods.
Pat.
Her name was Pat?
I believe so. So anyways, as Susie and her cab are driving away, they're going through the forest, and there's these kind of really cool shots of, like, you see the headlights in the distance turning and stuff. And she sees Pat, or whatever the girl's name is, running through the forest. Through all these huge trees.
She's barely even running. She's kind of just stomping along.
Sure. So, it's, beautifully shot, these trees. And Susie goes on. Pat, however, finds a friend of hers in town. Sorry, I need to clear my throat.
Go for it. Pat finds a friend of hers in town who lives in some sort of, like...
crazy apartment building.
I want to say it could only be classified as, like, a disco optical illusion.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. That, I think, intentionally, with the exception of one sequence, the whole movie is shot almost like a surreal, weird dream.
You're not kidding.
And the one sequence that's not like that is done that way for a very specific reason. But we'll get to that in a little bit.
All right.
So she finds her friend. Pat finds a friend. And the friend's like, yeah, of course you can stay here. What's going on? And she's like, and this is actually interesting that you just sort of brought up this, like, disco whatever, and this surreal idea. She's like, it's so fantastic you wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And she means not fantastic as in good. She means fantastic as in, like, bizarre.
Right.
So
it's literally fantasy oriented. Fantastic.
So she's like, can I use your bathroom?
She's got to dry off all that German rainwater.
Yeah. And the bathroom is interesting. The bathroom blue.
Yeah.
Which is important. We'll discuss that at the very end.
Oh.
And she comes out of the bathroom and she's in the bedroom. And the door's shut.
Boy, is it.
And she looks out and she sees her clothes out on a clothesline.
But what else does she see?
Through the clothes, she sees a specter of some kind. And they do a really cool reflection shot of Pat actually in the reflection, where you can see her reflection as well as the clothes, and it almost looks like she's got a burial shroud over her face, which is really cool. And she keeps peering out like there's something out there. And all of a sudden, this hairy arm busts through the
Well,
glass.
first the eyes open up in the darkness and look at her.
Mysterious specter eyes.
Whoa.
And then the hairy arm busts
The
through the
hairiest arm.
glass and starts to pull her through.
Right.
And her friend starts beating on the door. She's like, Pat, yeah, what's going on? And so she runs out to go get help. Starts beating on other people's doors.
Screaming, there's a murderer!
Yeah.
There's a murderer!
She ends up like, they're on the, I don't know, second or third floor.
They're up there.
There's-
I'd say third.
There's 3 floors. And you know this because the elevator has the kookiest floor light-up thing. It's a triangle.
Oh, yeah.
And different, so there's a bottom section, a top left, and a top right, and each section has a different number. And it lights up based on what floor you're on. So there's only three lights on that.
Oh, my God.
So, the friend ends up on the main floor, and there's this beautiful skylight. This like almost like stained glass. It's not really stained glass, but it's colored glass, and it's just this beautiful artistic skylight up there.
Looks like something you'd see in math class.
And you see that it cuts to above the skylight, and you see that the critter has put Pat on the skylight, has killed her.
The lone hairy arm.
And is got
It's got a pretty intense hunting knife that it just keeps stabbing her with randomly.
And it ties a rope around her arms.
Yeah.
And the glass gives way, and Pat falls through the glass. And when her body reaches the end of the rope slips up around her neck and tightens and just hangs her, and she's just bleeding. And she's very close to the ground at that point.
Right.
The
roommate is also there.
The roommate's there. Well,
the friend whose apartment it is.
Yeah. But the blood is like dripping down her legs and
it
stuff.
is the reddest blood.
Yeah, there's a lot of like very 70s blood effect in the film. The image though of the girl hanging is the main image that you see for most things for Suspiria.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's
gross.
sort of the iconic imagery. And then we see that the friend is also dead, has been impaled by this glass and metal framing from the window that has fallen.
Yup.
And killed her. There's no witnesses, no survivors.
So this big hairy arm that was somehow floating outside of a 3rd-story window has killed 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
And that is messed up. Does Susie ever come back to the school?
Susie, the next day, comes back to the school. And she's introduced to Madame Blanc.
Madame Blanc.
She's the vice directress.
Oh.
And Miss Tanner, who's actually the first woman she meets, I believe, is Miss Tanner, right?
Yeah.
The very, like, stern, militaristic instructor.
Yeah.
And she has some conversations with the directress. And the directress is like, your room isn't ready, unfortunately.
Right.
But we've arranged for a roommate in town for a week.
Yeah, with Olga.
It'll be $50 for the week, but you can just deduct it out of your fees for the school.
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to be able to stay here.
I like it. And Olga wants that paper.
Yeah, Olga wants that paper, indeed. So Susie gets taken to... She sees a few people, actually, on the way to the locker room.
Yeah, there's like a cute janitor boy who has to work for his tuition.
Yeah, he's also a student.
There's the giant teeth guy.
The giant teeth guy.
He's very tall, and
what was that guy's name?
He's got those big teeth, and he never says a word. And it's funny because when I saw that guy, I thought of him. Did you see Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters? Wes?
I did see that movie.
Okay, well maybe I shouldn't mention this until later. But then again, whoever's listening has already seen the movie.
Sure, yeah, go ahead and mention it. Because I'm looking up the guy's name. I can't remember his name either.
Well, it's sort of like, in Hansel and Gretel's Witch Hunters, they talk about how trolls have to obey witches.
Mm.
Like, that's a troll's lot in life. It has to obey witches. And so when I saw this guy, I was like, oh, what if they're witches and this poor guy is a troll that's just stuck doing whatever they tell him to do? Wouldn't that stink for this poor guy?
Is his name Albert?
I think it's Albert. He's about 1,000 feet tall. No, that's not true.
He's a tall dude. No, Pavlo. Albert's the little boy.
Albert's the little Aryan boy.
His name is Pavlo.
Pavlo is the tall troll-like guy.
Yeah. Who seems like you've seen him in things before, but I'm sure you haven't. He's got like one of those big giant doofy faces, like Jaws from
Richard
James
Keel.
Bond.
Yeah. Poor Pablo.
Pavlo.
Let's hear it for Pablo.
Pavlo.
Pavlo.
With a V.
That's what I've been saying.
Oh, that sounds like you're saying Pablo.
Pavlo.
So
Pavlo honey.
So she meets Pavlo. She meets the cook. And this little boy who's with the cook all the time, maybe her son, maybe grandson, maybe she's just watching him. Who knows? He's like a little blonde Aryan boy.
Good question as to why he's there.
Goofy little outfit. The outfit looks like it's from like the 1800s, not the 1970s. But
it's not quite lederhosen, but it's just kind of like a weird little schoolboy outfit.
She also sees and sort of overhears a conversation. Daniel, the blind piano player who leaves his dog out front.
Oh, yeah.
The service dog shows up, and he's told to head to the rehearsal room. So Susie gets taken to the locker room.
Where she's told to borrow a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Yeah, so she goes in, and there's a girl who has a pair of shoes, and she's like, you can borrow these, and if you want, you can buy them from me.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh no, I've got some in my suitcase. I just don't have my suitcase with me. And the girl's like very distraught. She's like, well, I guess you can borrow them anyways. Like, I really was only letting you borrow them so I can try and sell them to you.
Yeah, she was really hoping to make that $15.
Yeah. She meets Olga, and she's like, oh, I'm going to be staying with you. And then she also meets... what is that girl's name? Sarah.
Sarah.
Susie and Sarah.
Sarah.
And Sarah's
our second Sarah in this podcast.
Yeah. So Sarah, she's like, don't worry, everybody's just trying to make money here, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Olga shows up and kind of gives Sarah and Susie a hard time, and she talks about Sarah and Susie. Those are names of snakes.
Yeah, names that start with S's are names of snakes. And doesn't she also make Sarah pay her for the rent immediately?
Yeah. Well, she's like right away, as soon as you can.
What a creep.
And so she hisses at them. Yeah, like that. And then Sarah sticks her tongue out.
Yeah.
They kind of get in each other's faces.
'Cause Sarah don't take no guff.
Well, did you notice anything about that? Sort of that scene. Does that seem weird to you? Their reactions to each other? Does that seem like normal 20-year-old behavior to you?
No, certainly not 20-year-olds.
Right. So there's an interesting story with that.
Let me hear it.
So in the original draft of the script, all of the students are 12 years old.
Oh.
And when they basically were told that they couldn't do that. They couldn't have a horror film with 12-year-olds.
That makes sense.
So they changed the age. They upped it to the age cap to 20. But they didn't change the script.
Oh, really?
Intentionally. And if you notice, or go back and watch it again, maybe viewers noticed this the first time around, do you notice where all the door handles are, all the doorknobs are in the...
I suppose I don't. Are they very low?
No, they're very, very high. They're all at about head height, specifically so that the women had to reach up to open the doors as if a child would have to open the door.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, so they intentionally kind of kept that
Ooh.
childlike thing in there. It's sort of this, this intentional.
That's so strange. All the doors had high knobs?
Yeah, they all had, like, high things.
Oh, man. I don't like it. That was a Philly Boy Roy impersonation, I should point out.
Okay. So, they are told to go to class. She's like, Tanner comes in and she's like, so-and-so, go to the yellow room or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, Susie is one of those people that has to go to the rehearsal room.
Right.
And they're all walking down the hallway. And on the way there, Susie sees the cook and the little boy. And the cook is polishing something. And she looks at the thing that she's polishing, like a crystal of some kind. And it flashes in her eyes. And she gets disoriented. And gets, like, kind of woozy. Woozy.
Ooh, careful, Susie.
So Susie goes on to the lesson. and she's told to participate, and she's like, I don't feel so well. Maybe exit this out. And Miss Tanner's like, how am I going to know your skill level if you don't participate?
Right.
Hop to it. And so she forces her to like do this thing, and she can't really keep up with everyone, and she faints.
She does some beautiful fainting, though.
Yeah.
It's a very, theater movement class
Very
style
ballet,
fainting. Yeah. Lots of big arm sweeps and very lovely, dance staggers toward the wall and what have you.
So she, it's kind of weird. Was that the next day? Because she does go spend an evening with Olga at Olga's apartment one night.
I believe so, yeah. So this must be day two.
In day two.
Yeah,
so,
that crazy black and white apartment.
Because where does she wake up from her fainting spell? She wakes up in a dorm room.
Yeah.
And so then that means we missed the conversation. There was a quick conversation after she stayed with Olga one night where the directress says, we've gotten your room ready sooner than we thought. You can move in right away. And she says, well, I think I'd rather just stay with Olga.
Right.
And she's like, well, you told us you were going to stay in a room, but whatever you want to do is fine. And then Miss Tanner's like, I can see you're very willful.
Yeah.
You just do what you want to do. So anyways, when she wakes up in the dorm room with a doctor there seeing to her. And all of her things are being moved into the dormitory. And she's like, where did you get my stuff? And they're like, well, we just figured it'd be easier for you. You got to be in bed. We got to take care of you for like a week or two.
Yeah.
So it's just be easier just to have your stuff. And she's going to be fed a bland meal, it appears.
Yeah.
As well as being medicated.
Right.
With a glass of wine.
A huge glass of wine.
Yeah, it's like a goblet of wine.
Right. It's like a big tumbler that's also filled almost all the way to the top of red wine to build the blood, as the doctor says.
What color wine?
Red.
Oh,
wine.
red wine. That's interesting. You noticed that.
So we've had a blue bathroom, and now we have red wine.
Yeah, and throughout the film, you see a lot of different colors, right?
Oh yeah.
You commented on this at one point in the film where the lighting changed in like mid scene.
Yeah.
You were like, well, it was just blue a second ago. Now it's
then,
red.
Yeah.
That's important, and it's a nice observation. So, Susie and Sarah, their rooms are right next to each other. They become besties, BFFs.
BFF, Susie and Sarah.
That night, as the students are getting ready for dinner, Susie starts, combing her hair.
Oh no!
The vanity.
Right.
What happens? Something falls right from the ceiling.
Well, in keeping with View the Right Thing tradition.
Yeah, there's startling similarities.
Because here comes more maggots.
Yeah, so these maggots start falling from the ceiling on all the different girls.
Falling through the ceiling on everybody.
Now, do you know what they dropped on them?
In the actual movie?
Yeah.
Please don't say live maggots.
Live grains of rice. They just dropped grains of rice.
Oh, okay. Whew.
So students all freak out.
Freaking out.
They go to investigate this, and they find in the attic there's just maggots everywhere.
Yeah, because for some reason there's food stored in the attic.
Yeah. So it's just some spoiled food. Don't worry about that.
For some reason it's in the attic. Don't worry about that either, apparently.
Yeah, I don't have a good explanation for it. I suspect, it's an older age, right? It's the 70s. That's,
yeah,
kind of older.
Maybe.
But I suspect maybe it's like the kind of meat that like hangs, like dried meats. That's but it was, because they make a point of saying it was sent to us rotten.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Ugh.
So yeah. They're told that the food spoiled in the attic. And then they're all told that they're going to sleep in the practice hall overnight. And they're like, what about the teachers?
Yeah.
And they're like, the teachers will be on the other side of the sheet.
Yeah, the boys have helped to hang up all these sheets so you can sleep in the practice hall.
And they see the little custodian boy, gives them a little wave and a wink from above the sheets.
I feel like he just kind of disappears.
The kid?
Yeah, do we see him after the sheet scene?
I think he's around, but I don't think he has an important role to play or anything. So at night, some person on the other side of the sheet, there's a red glow on the other side of the sheet.
A pink glow,
Okay.
I would say.
All right, it could be pink, reddish, a
Sure.
lightish red.
Well, yeah.
On the other side of the sheet, and as some silhouetted figure lays down on a bed, and you hear this like rasping, wheezing, snoring, breathing sound, right?
Yeah.
And Sarah tells Susie, "He's like, I've heard this before. That's the school director
Yeah.
that nobody ever sees or hears from."
Directress.
And
Nobody's ever seen
and she's not supposed to be there. She's supposed to be away and not returning for several weeks.
Ooh.
So, and I think Susie is kind of like, so the F what? Like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Big deal.
But
I've heard the directress before.
yeah, so Sarah's like, they're lying to us. That's the big deal, is they're lying to us. Why would
Yeah.
they lie to us about this?
Well, also, doesn't she explain that where she heard the directress's snoring before was when the directress was put into a room that shares a wall with Susie's, and that room, or no, that shares a wall with Sarah's, and that room is now Susie's room. So the directress has slept in Susie's room with her awful snore.
Who we can presume what that room was also Pat's at one point.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have a room available. Pat dies, all of a sudden they have a room available.
Right.
So I gather that room was Pat's. So the next day, the next
Yeah.
morning, Daniel arrives and leaves his dog out there and goes in.
Daniel
to,
the blind pianist.
Yeah. He goes in to play piano and do rehearsals.
Yeah.
And Olga and the little boy Albert
Little boy Albert.
show up, and they stop and they stare at the dog, and the dog starts growling. Then we cut into the rehearsal room, and Miss Tanner
Yeah.
busts on in,
Ooh.
and she
She's on fire.
forces Daniel to stop playing, and she starts berating him and tells him that his dog bit Albert and is
Oh.
a filthy mongrel and blah blah blah, and Daniel defends the dog, of course, and Miss Tanner grabs his jacket and his cane and throws them on the floor and is like, "Get out and don't come back."
Yeah. Doesn't
And-
she say, "Get out and don't come back. Do you hear me?" And he's like, "Oh, very funny.
Yeah.
Do I hear you?" Or yeah, she says something about here, and he's like, "Oh, asking me if I hear you. Of course I hear you." And then he finds his cane and jacket.
Yeah, he finds him, and then he leaves. He takes off.
Poor Daniel.
That night, when Sarah and Susie are kind of hanging out together in Susie's room, Susie's taking her medication.
Mhm.
And
Her
Susie's,
huge glass of wine.
yeah, Susie's talking to her about, "Oh, in your room we can hear these footsteps. We could maybe tell," because they say that the teachers all leave at such and such time.
Yeah.
But then we hear these footsteps, so they must still be here. Where did they go?
Oh my God.
So what if we counted the number of footsteps in the direction they were going and figured out where they were going? And Susie, of course,
Sounds
is
like trouble.
all falling asleep and stuff. So Sarah starts writing this down on a piece of paper. Daniel, meanwhile, is in a bar, and this is the first time we get away from this like blue and red and weird colored
Yeah.
stuff. Not only is it not really a set, but it's lit with normal lighting.
Oh yeah.
And he has this beer, and he leaves the bar, and
He's got his dog with him.
he's got his dog, and he starts proceeding through a plaza in
Yeah.
town. And the plaza is sort of surrounded by these large columned structures. They actually almost look a little Roman to me, but
I think it's safe to say Hitler built that plaza.
yeah, they're very, very square. They're very like Nazi-esque, imposing.
Kind of place where they'd have their parades.
And it's white.
Yeah.
Everything is white, and it's just normal lighting, and it's the real world in a way.
Whoa.
You know, we've been in this surreal situation, and then all of a sudden we're in this real world. And as he walks through the plaza, the dog starts freaking out, and he's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And the dog turns on him, leaps up,
No.
and starts just chewing the guy's throat.
No.
Daniel falls down, the dog continues to pull away the skin and sinews.
Gross.
And as the dog is eating him, some police officers show up and they're like, "Hey, what's going on?" They start running at the dog, and the dog runs away. You all right over there?
I'm having a yawn attack.
Oh,
right
not
now.
a yawn attack.
It's like my eyes are going crazy, and I'm trying to stifle this yawn. It's because I want to cough. That's why. I want to have a cough attack. Hey, everybody out there, don't catch this cough that's going around.
So
Daniel's been killed in the Nazi plaza.
yeah, so the next day, Susie and Sarah chit-chat with each other. And there's been this police investigation into the disappearance and then death of Pat.
Yeah.
And of course, as far as they can tell, the last living person to see Pat alive was Susie.
Oh, no.
And so Susie is talking to Sarah about it, and she says, "I recall her saying something as I was getting out of the cab, but it was so loud and rainy, it was hard for me to hear.
Right.
But I feel like she said Iris and something about secret."
Whoa. Irises.
So later that night, Susie and Sarah go for a swim.
Yeah.
And Argento told them to move as slowly and as calmly as possible.
Yeah.
Because he wanted the water to look very tranquil and kind of glassy.
Cool.
So they're swimming around, and Susie tells Sarah. Sarah tells Susie. It's all these S names.
Yeah. Snakes.
All right. So Sarah tells Susie that she and Pat were like best friends. Makes sense. Their rooms were probably next to each other.
Right.
But Pat had started talking kind of strangely for a while.
Boy. Oh, Pat.
So when the girls go back to Susie's room, they start looking for the notes that Sarah had written down about the... I'm good right now, thank you. The notes that she had written about the footsteps, and they can't seem to find them. And then, of course, Susie gets super, super drowsy and falls asleep. And then all of a sudden, there's some footsteps.
No.
And there's a light on. A light turns on in Sarah's room. And so she freaks out and leaves out Susie's front door.
Oh my God, no. Run, Sarah.
And then she gets chased through the place.
By something.
By something or someone.
Maybe several somethings, because she's kind of running one way, and she sees something, and she has to turn and run the other way, and something's there, and it's all very scary. Walt agrees that it's scary.
Just that little sighting of Walt. So she, whoa boy. So Sarah runs away. She encounters a locked door, and then she goes down up a hallway and up some stairs, or maybe down some stairs. She ends up in this room, and she seems to be trapped in a storage room.
Trapped in the closet.
It's more of a storage room. Oh. And at first she sort of kind of gives up a little bit, and then she sees that there's a window.
Yes.
And so...
Freedom, right?
Freedom.
Sweet freedom. She's going to get away from whatever it is.
So she starts piling luggage from the storage room up. She was on the floor. I think she sat down on the floor because she was all worried because there's someone on the other side of the door. There's a latch that kind of falls over the top of the door, and this guy, there's somebody sticking a knife through and can't seem to get the latch up. A razor
blade. And
like a straight razor.
And he can't just
flip it up.
Seem to move it up hard enough to move the latch. And that's
painfully difficult to watch. But so Sarah sees the window, gets up off the floor, gets some gumption. She starts stacking up the luggage, and she climbs up into the window and leaps into the next room.
Oh my gosh.
Where does she fall?
Into a veritable tangle of razor wire.
Of razor wire, indeed.
Just a big old heap of razor wire.
For no good reason.
No good reason whatsoever.
A trap, maybe, a pit. And there's a door. The room's not very big. It's like 5 or 6 feet to the door. But
Yeah.
she's struggling and getting caught up in the razor wire.
She's
and
basically on top of razor wire, but also tangled up in the razor wire that she fell through.
Interestingly,
There's no winning.
that actress actually really got tangled up in that wire. It's not razor
no.
wire, obviously, but
Sure.
it would pull and pinch her and stuff. It did
That's
hurt.
not cool.
So she legitimately got tangled up in that stuff, and then a black gloved hand comes out of the dark doorway and slits her throat.
No, gross.
With that razor blade.
Why?
So the next morning, the Madame Blanc and Tanner inform Susie that Sarah has abruptly left. She just disappeared, and of course Susie's like, "What is going on? That can't be right." So she goes into town to talk to a friend of Sarah's named Frank Mandel. He's a psychologist.
Is he played by Udo Kier?
Udo Kier.
Woo!
So, Frank, there's that freaking ice cream truck outside again.
Oh, really? You're hearing it?
Yeah,
I'm not hearing it.
A little bit. So, Frank explains sort of what Sarah was worried about, and what Sarah had been talking about, and sort of the research that they had done. And they found that the academy was founded by this Greek immigrant named Helena Marcos.
Helena Marcos.
And many people believed that Helena Marcos was a supreme witch, a black witch.
Oh, no.
And so his Frank's colleague, Professor Millis, wait, where does Professor Millis fit in here? I'm trying to remember where he was.
Doesn't Frank just have him tell Susie even more stuff about witches?
Right. Yes,
about
that's
covens
right.
and what have you?
So he tells Susie that's right. He tells her that the coven can only survive if the queen survives.
Oh.
So if they were to eliminate the queen, then the coven would be eliminated.
Whoa.
When Susie gets back, she finds that all the students have gone to like the Bolshoi or something. Like they're all at the theater. And she hears, when she's alone in the hallways, overhears some footsteps that Sarah had identified before.
Oh,
and
yeah,
so
because everybody's supposed to be gone.
And she remembers Sarah's idea.
Oh, boy.
So she follows them. And she follows them down to assistant directress Blank's
right
office.
Secrets. Irises.
Yeah. And she sees that there's these irises on the wall.
It's a black and white wall, but what do the irises look like?
Well, the irises are red and blue and yellow.
And then I think there's a white one that's very hard to make out.
Yeah. And then she remembers more of the what Pat had said in the rain. Turn the blue one.
Ooh.
So she goes over and touches the blue one, and sure enough, it turns.
See, now, when I was first watching the movie with you, and she was talking about how she heard Pat yelling irises, and before I knew it was witches, I was thinking maybe she heard her yelling vampirises.
Uh-huh.
Because, you know, there's a lot of blood, there's this directress who's sleeping at night and all that.
I might be a little bit at fault for that.
No, that's okay.
Because you and I were in the car one day, and we talked about Suspiria, and you said, how many vampires... You were asking all these different questions. How many werewolves are in this movie? I said, none. And you said, how many vampires are in this film? And I said, I'm not going to say.
Oh.
And then you also asked about witches, and I said, I'm not going to say. Because I didn't want to just completely give it away. But,
sure.
But I did want to rule out werewolves for you.
All right. So they're not vampiresses at all. They are indeed witches.
They are indeed witches.
And the irises was actually a clue about painted irises on the wall.
Which you see once or twice earlier in the film, but it's not, you know. I
think literally once.
I think, yeah, you see The Office, I think, once or twice, but you probably don't know that those are irises unless you're like a horticulturalist, you know, or you're into botany or something.
Yeah. I couldn't recognize an iris.
Yeah, I wouldn't know an iris if I saw one. So maybe that's just because we're weird dudes, movie dudes.
What can I say?
So it opens a hidden passage when she
Whoa.
turns it, and she goes in, and
At this point, the music by Goblin is like, yeah.
it's just like mumbling.
Well, yeah, because it's got the melody going, which is really cool and spooky, but then there's just this humanized voice just going.
Yeah, and the music, it's got kind of a very 70s, almost like Halloween kind of vibe to it. It's like pretty simple melody, but you hear it a lot.
It's good.
It's unsettling.
Very, very unsettling.
So she goes down the hallway. She sees some curtains. She kind of hides behind the curtains.
Oh.
Pavlo's there. Albert's there.
Oh yeah.
I don't think the cook was there, but Tanner is there, and Madame Blanc is there.
What was that?
I don't know. Benjamin.
Mm.
So Madame Blanc is there, and she, Susie witnesses they're doing some sort of ritual, and they're talking about how they have to get rid of the American girl. Kill.
Which bothered me a lot.
Yeah?
Because what has Susie done to them?
Sure.
At all.
Well, I think they know that she's meddling and that she's learning about the coven just the way Pat did.
Yeah. Maybe.
I mean, Pat learned about it, ran away, and got killed.
Yeah.
They eliminated her. So I think that's sort of the idea. Is they know that they know that she went into town to talk to Frank.
Right.
The same people that Pat talked to. And she was BFFs with Susie. And they had to eliminate... Sarah. And they had to eliminate Sarah. So I think,
All right.
So once that happens, she sees Pavlo coming out of the ritual room to look for her and kill her. So she sees this doorway and goes through the doorway. And she finds Sarah's body nailed into a coffin.
No.
When I say nailed into a coffin, there are nails through Sarah's body.
Like she's crucified to it.
Into the coffin, yeah.
Ooh, yes.
So then Susie sneaks into another room, and she awakens the shadowy figure of Helena Marcos.
No. Who I don't like at all.
And she laughs, and she makes this demonic sound and stuff.
She's very manic and easily psychotic.
Yeah.
Like she just keeps saying, like, you want to kill Helena Marcos, huh? Oh, you think you're gonna be able to do that? And she's rattling on with all this manic, crazy talk.
And there's a bird in the room. Do you remember the bird?
The bird.
Do you remember the peacock in the room?
I don't think I do.
There's this beautiful glass peacock in the room.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I thought you meant a living bird.
No.
Okay.
There's there's a peacock in there.
Yeah.
So what does she do with the peacock?
I remember it smashing to the floor. And she grabs a piece of it.
She pulls. So before it smashes to the floor, she takes one of the feathers and pulls it straight out. And it's like
uses a sharp skewer.
Yeah. So I want to address that.
Okay.
Do you know what Dario Argento's first film was called?
The Peacock?
The Bird with the Crystal Plumage.
Whoa.
So clearly a reference to his first film.
Pretty cool.
Because she pulls out this feather, and it's like this big long crystal that she's going to use as a weapon.
No.
So she goes up to where Helena was, and Helena has disappeared, and the corpse of Sarah is moving in.
Yeah, it's coming in to get her.
And
because Helen keeps saying, I'll send you to hell with the dead, the living dead. And then Sarah comes walking in.
And out of the corner of her eye, she sort of sees the outline of Helena Marcos, and she just takes a wild swing and stabs Helena Marcos in the neck.
Ew, gross. Gross, Helena Marcos.
Right through the throat.
No.
She fades away, and she's screaming, and it also kills the animated corpse as well.
Yeah, as it should.
So the building catches on fire. And things start exploding. I believe the bird explodes.
It does?
I think so. Or maybe it just falls. But there's definitely, windows and stuff are blowing up. Because there's a whole thing about how they were using, essentially pyrotechnics to blow things up. And it, was really unsettling for the girl. Because they were all going off really close to the girl that played Susie.
Oh, snap. Really?
Yeah. So
did she get injured?
I don't know, as far as I know.
Oh, Susie.
So Susie manages to get out of the building as it goes up in flames. This beautiful building, this beautiful, strange, weird building. It goes up in flames, and that is the end of the movie.
Boom.
And that's
So
it.
fast.
It's super abrupt.
It's literally, she goes, she learns that there might be witches, and then
Yep.
she discovers they are indeed witches, and it's done.
Yep. So
Suspiria.
Red rooms, blue rooms, red lights, lots of blue lights.
I feel like there's even a green room at one point.
There's definitely green lights, which sort of play as interludes in between the red and the blue.
Yeah.
Oftentimes. Usually when it's green, there's nothing really happening other than exposition.
Oh, okay.
So, so let's talk about the lights first.
All right.
Red in this film symbolizes sort of being unsettled, confused, or anxious, like full of confusion. Let's go with confusion. So, for example, when what's her name? Sarah is walking through the school and she's kind of lost in the middle of the night. She doesn't exactly know where to go, and she knows there is something behind her. Footsteps behind her. The lights are red. Or when you're in your friend's apartment and you're scared because there's something there, the lights are red. Blue represents sort of the calm before the storm, the stillness. So whenever we know something's going to happen, but the threat is not immediately present, or we don't know what it is yet, it's usually blue. So, so the character typically knows something horrific is going to happen, but all they can do is wait. So it's sort of about, blue usually is about calm, and that's kind of why it's being used here.
Yeah.
But it's an unsettled calm because we know something's about to happen. So, for example, Sarah gets into a fetal position in that blue room, or the bathroom at the beginning of the film, where she's in this blue bathroom, but we know something's coming. We just don't know what it is. And it's not till she goes in the next room and we get the red lights that we know that the threat is imminent. So,
gross.
It's a really, really kind of cool use of color in the film. The blue iris, for example, is, again,
that's a good point.
There's a turn happening at the end of the film. Literally a turn happening at the end of the film.
Turn that blue iris, you're walking into trouble.
Yeah. Elena Marcos is typically bathed in red light.
I don't want to think about her.
Right. But the first time we even see her silhouette, there's that kind of reddish pinkish light that you're talking about.
Yeah.
All those colors, there's a lot of red and there's a lot of yellow and a lot of blue. And I think very much by design, Argento had his cinematographer watch Disney's Snow White.
Oh yeah.
And they based their color palette on that film.
Whoa.
And there's a lot of references. There's sort of like this evil queen who doesn't like this young girl that's come in, and
there's
she's very fair.
A witch involved.
There's definitely witches involved, and they put her to sleep, and so there's what color is the wine?
Red.
It's red.
So have an apple, my dear.
So there's this very specific color palette being used that I really appreciate. That's one of the reasons I love the movie so much. Is it's so uniquely visual, especially in the 70s, but even today, like, not very many artists make films that are so unique. You mentioned Goblin and the music.
Yes.
Argento used to take their music and play it like full blast on set, because remember, they were recording things without sound, so you play it full set to just completely mess with the actors and make them really, really uncomfortable and stuff. I picked up that this was not probably your favorite of the films that we watched.
It wasn't. The coffee countdown kicked in fairly early, and I was dozing off somewhat regularly.
Yeah. Do you understand, even though this maybe is not your movie? Yeah. Do you understand why people say this is a must-see horror film?
That's a really good question. Because, having worked in video stores for years, I was always told, you have to see Suspiria. I was always asked, oh my God, you haven't seen Suspiria? So many people have been singing this movie's praises to me for years now.
Do you understand its artistic merit?
That for sure.
And I think that's probably why people say that, right? Because I think, there's so many slasher films,
right?
you know, like you go back and you watch Rosemary's Baby. That's a slow movie. That's not a like a modern horror film. There's a very
Right.
big difference between horror from the 60s and 70s. I mean, every like 20 years or so, horror sort of changes a bit, right? You falling asleep already? You talking to you about this?
No.
It's nodding off over here, guys.
Dude, I'm so tired today, man.
So
This iced tea is not doing the job that the coffee should have done.
right. So horror movies from the 40s and 50s are very different than the movies of the 60s and 70s, right?
Sure.
And even the 80s. 80s and 90s sort of kind of go together because that's sort of slasher era, right?
Absolutely.
You know, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, moving into Scream and so on, right?
Yeah.
And in the mid to late 90s, there was a whole host of really bad slasher films. Valentine and Urban Legend.
Valentine.
And that's the one with David Boreanaz.
Oh, yeah.
Urban Legend and so on. And now, interestingly, I feel like horror is sort of starting to move back to that older genre in some respects. They're definitely more graphic, which I think is more representative of the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
The graphics didn't look as good in the 70s and 80s. They didn't look as real.
Certainly not.
But they were still showing the same things.
Yeah.
And I think that thematically, horror is going that direction of the 60s and 70s in that they're becoming more story-centric.
Oh, all right.
And they're taking their time. And I think, especially when you look at a movie like The Conjuring, which I think is one of the better horror
That's a very
films
scary movie.
Yeah. That movie takes its time to
Yeah.
really, like, it paces itself really, really well. And everything is about, they really set an atmosphere in that film. And that's
Yeah.
that's what those movies do. And you know, it's kind of, we talked about that after we watched Suspiria. It's like, this movie is about atmosphere. It's about feeling like there's something spooky or something unsettling or something confusing going on.
Yeah.
It's not about just straight terror. It's about, imagine yourself in a situation where you're in an endless maze of color that you don't
Right.
understand.
In what is supposed to be your home.
Yeah,
Frankly.
but also a foreign country. You know,
Right.
Like, there's just like all this like unknown
Yeah.
there, and I think there's a natural, even though the movie's very surreal, there's sort of this natural terror. Whereas, like, yeah, the hockey mask guy is pretty scary, but like it doesn't feel very realistic.
Right.
So-
At least you know with him, just stay away from Crystal Lake
Right.
and he won't bother you.
Right. There's a Friday the 13th game on Kickstarter right now.
Oh, really?
I'm a Kickstarter supporter for that. In like the first day they did, or first 48 hours or something, they did like $380,000 or something crazy like that.
Whoa.
So I think their goal is like 700,000 or something. So
Any idea if you get to play as Jason or as a
you
camp
are
counselor?
a camp counselor, and they actually have. I wish I could afford the $400 thing, because the $400 tier, you actually get, there's a database of camp counselors over the years.
Oh, really?
And you get to put your name and photo in the database.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, so people will be able to see you as a camp counselor from
Counselor Wes.
But the game is it's an online cooperative game. So it's like you're a counselor
Yeah.
playing with a bunch of, like, if you're playing at home and I'm playing at my home, we're playing the game together to defeat Jason.
Oh, no.
As different counselors.
Wow.
One of the stretch goals, which is like really far off, they haven't said what it is yet, exactly
Okay.
how much, is a single player mode. But right now the game is just an online game. But
Weird.
anyways, I'm really intrigued by that because I love the Friday the 13th franchise.
I wish I didn't, but I do.
You wish you didn't love that franchise?
Well, those movies scared the heck out of me when I was a real little kid. I probably saw my first Jason movie when I was like 5 years old.
Well, since it's Halloween, let's talk a little bit about our favorite horror films.
Wow, all right.
So which Friday the 13th is your favorite? It doesn't have to be the best one, but your favorite.
4.
The one where Crispin Glover dances.
Crispin Glover, young Corey Feldman does that, pulls that switcheroo on Jason.
Little bald Corey Feldman.
Zaxxon reference. The girl from Weird Science is in it.
The twins are in it.
The twins.
Yeah, so the twins in that movie.
Twins.
Do you remember the twins in the little jumpsuits?
No.
Yeah, one gets thrown off the roof onto a car. in the
How do I
movie.
not remember that?
Yeah,
In
there's
part 4?
Yeah, so this
The final chapter?
yeah in the final chapter, the girl, I think one of the girls auditioned and they found out that she had a twin.
Oh, wow.
And so they just cast them both. in the
Wow.
film.
That's got to be fun for the other twin.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I like 4 a lot. Plus, also, there's that guy who comes specifically to hunt Jason. And, like, that's a pretty cool element. Like, all the others are just like, oh, I hear there's this killer around here. Sure. And this one has this dude who shows up like, I'm looking for Jason, man. Yeah. And I got my own machete.
Right.
And Jason's going to turn me into a knife.
The machete death at the end is actually pretty good. Spoiler alert. Corey Feldman... So, again, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Corey Feldman gives him a good whack with the machete.
That machete.
And it sticks in his head.
Yeah.
And Jason falls to the ground, and it continues to cut his head open as his face slips down it.
Oh, that's gnarly.
It's a pretty good one.
I probably saw that at about 7 or 8 years old.
Oh, that's too young for that movie.
I agree.
Yeah.
But I saw the Jasons way early, and they freaked me out.
Probably 10 or 11.
Yeah.
Probably closer to 11 when I saw my first one, and that's, of course, my favorite, which is Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives.
Jason Lives.
They reopen Camp Crystal Lake.
Yeah.
And,
is that when he's chained to the bottom of the lake? And he somehow rises? Or is that when he's in a grave and Tommy somehow resurrects him with a lightning bolt?
He's in the grave.
Oh.
And I believe he ends up chained at the bottom of the lake.
Okay.
In 7, the telekinetic girl brings him back.
And then they go to New York.
Then they go to New York in 8.
They take Manhattan.
And then my second favorite is Jason X. Jason in Space.
Jason X is a wild ride.
It's a fun movie, and I think it's kind of a little bit misunderstood. I think a lot of people don't get it. Like, that it's intentionally the way it is.
Yeah. Like the idea of just an upgrade machine.
Yeah. Like,
you just put anything in this, and it just somehow makes it upgraded.
Yeah. And that moment when there's like a holodeck and it's like Camp
with
Crystal Lake.
With the sleeping bag. Oh, boy.
Smoke pot and have premarital sex.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So that's my favorite. My favorite Friday the 13th reopens the camp. There's a great motorhome death where he pushes the girl's face into the side of the motorhome, and you see her face like indent the outside.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Some good stuff.
That was totes gnar.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what my favorite horror movie would be. I love me a good old-fashioned screening of just Halloween Part 1.
Halloween Part 1's excellent.
It's pretty great.
I like Halloween 1 and 2 back-to-back, actually, since they take place pretty much the same night.
True that. But I also really like what Rob Zombie did with the Halloweens.
You did?
I really did.
Yeah,
I think I went to each of them twice. And one thing I especially really liked about what he did with Halloween 2 was how for almost every kill... Well, first, he starts the movie off as a total homage to the original Halloween 2, and then throws you a total curveball. And that's great.
And it's almost like a much bigger film than the original Halloween 2, because it takes place a much longer time period. Absolutely.
And it's great. And I'm like, I was not expecting that at all.
And a good twist at the end.
A great twist at the end. And then also, as I remember it, basically each time he goes to make a kill, it's almost like there's a totally different like directorial style being applied. And like the one I remember the most is that when Danielle Harris's character is, it's just like she's alone in the house and he's in the frickin' house and he's finally going to get her because he missed her in the first movie. And they don't even show her get killed. They show her fleeing him in slow motion, and then you're hearing her screaming and I think, his knife or whichever, doing its job. But she's still running away and alive just in super slow motion, and it kind of just like drags to a halt and goes to black, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't seen it in a couple years. But I remember walking out of that movie and being like, yo, that was dope, and a lot of people are going to hate on it just because, everybody loves to hate a remake. But that's a good remake.
My good friends.
And it's a reimagining, really.
My good friends are in that movie.
That's true.
Yeah, so...
I like to think of them as my good acquaintances.
Yeah, so my friend's Tyler Main.
Now, who does he play?
He plays Michael Myers.
Whoa!
He's the monster, the shape. And then my very good friend Renee Geerlings, his wife, is the bun cop.
The bun cop or the braid cop?
The bun... Well... She has bun braids.
Okay.
They're braids that are like in little buns.
I thought you had told me she was specifically listed as braid cop.
I think it's bun cop.
I've got IMDb open right here.
It might
Let's
say
check.
On there. We'll see. I don't know if it says it in there. I know on their website, I was helping them name some of their. You can buy autographed photos from Tyler's site.
Nice.
So she has a few on there, and I think the one we listed for that was Nice Buns.
That's good.
Yeah. Anyways, they're great people. They did a really fun kind of throwback horror film called Compound Fracture. We've mentioned it once or twice on here. Try not to push our stuff too much, but I do love them, so I wanted to just say the title one more time.
Amen to that. Oh, yeah, and Angela Trimber's in Halloween, too. Angela Trimber, who you can currently see in theaters in The Final Girls.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I was in UCB Level 1 with her.
Oh, fancy.
She's great. Watch anything Angela Trimber's
Any
in.
any other favorite horror films? I like Halloween 1. I think it's a good one. It's a good call. The Shining.
Shining's awesome. What's funny is I've sat through Room 237 probably 3 times now.
That's great, isn't it?
Because it's just such a trip. Like,
you know, it's funny. I did a Room,
just a trip. Yes.
Room 237 night here at the house.
I was there.
Everybody hated it except for a couple of us.
Probably me, because I had already seen it, I think, at that point.
Our friends Daniel and Charlene did not like it.
But did they hate it?
I'm pretty sure they really, really didn't like it. And Renee, I don't think, liked it very much. I thought Alex was pretty indifferent about it. But I don't know. I think Room 237 is a lot of fun. But what we do is, as film fans, is make educated guesses about, and sometimes not educated guesses about the meaning behind. Yeah. Like, that's what we're doing on this thing, is we're talking about the meaning behind lights and stuff, Because that skier on the poster was clearly a Minotaur. Right.
Clearly. So, I'm on IMDb for Halloween 2 Remake 2009, directed by Rob Zombie. Your friend, my good acquaintance, Renee Geerlings, is neither bun cop nor braid cop. Credited as Deputy Gwyn.
Well, yes, Deputy Gwyn is their character's name, but I believe... I don't want to say the story. That's a story that Renee should say, but I believe Rob Zombie sort of named her the bun cop for a reason. But
that's fun.
Again, that's a story that she should tell.
Now, do you think Gwyn is an homage to Fred Gwynn of Herman Munster fame?
I don't know if Rob Zombie was that big of a Munster fan. But...
He's Rob Zombie.
Okay.
They're the Munsters.
Sure,
he made a whole song called Dragula. That was their car.
All right.
It's got to be. Maybe. I'm going to text Rob. I'm going to ask for sure.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
I also really love the first Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah.
And I almost hate that I love it because, of the director's checkered past. But
I like the end of the movie a lot.
But I think it's a great monster movie.
Yeah, I'll go back to The Conjuring as one of my favorites. Modern, for sure.
Conjuring effed me up.
Cabin in the Woods. I
Cabin in the Woods is brilliant.
Conjuring
effed me up. I had a nightmare about The Conjuring like a month after.
Yeah.
Went home that night. I was totally fine. A month after, I had a nightmare about that hag. And I was just like, if that hag was trying to possess the girl in the movie, what's happening to me if I'm having a nightmare about it all these weeks later? Mm-hmm. It freaked me out real bad, dog.
Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn. That's another one.
Oh, for sure.
That new Evil Dead series comes out on
I've not watched...
It's not out yet.
I thought you meant the Evil Dead remake that just happened.
The TV series.
Yeah, I'm going to watch that.
Yeah, with Bruce Campbell.
Also starring Dana DiLorenzo of Impress Me. Check your local listings.
Which you've been on.
Only 2 episodes.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. Any other horror films that come to mind?
I just saw Bone Tomahawk. Did we discuss Bone Tomahawk?
We didn't, because I was going to try and go into it completely blind.
Okay.
That's my goal. So I don't want to know anything about it. I didn't even watch the trailer. I started to play the trailer and I was like, you know what? I don't want to know anything about it because Steve was so disturbed by it. I don't want to know any little thing, any detail at all.
I kind of regret mentioning it just now since we are talking about horror movies.
Yeah.
Well,
plus that hasn't been out, so we shouldn't talk about it anyways.
Okay. Well, anyway, keep your eyes out for Bone Tomahawk and use your best judgment.
Yeah.
Do watch the trailer. Use your best judgment because that movie has messed me up for a good week and a half now.
Yeah. About zombie movies, how about like Dawn of the Dead, the original Dawn of the Dead?
Yeah, I like the remake of that all right. I still don't like Running Zombies very much, but I think there's a lot of other really good stuff in that movie.
Running Zombies doesn't make sense. Actually,
it does not.
They address that in Diary of the Dead, I think.
Oh, really?
Where they're like, look, if you have a decaying corpse, if it tries to run, it's going to break its legs off.
Yeah. Are you caught up on Walking Dead?
There's only 1 episode so far, but so yes.
Okay. Well, I won't even spoil too much of that.
We're not a TV podcast.
Right. But what I will say is there's been a lot of instances on Walking Dead where a decaying corpse somehow manages to outmuscle a fully grown man.
Yeah, stronger than it should be.
And that happens a lot, and that drives me absolutely nuts when that happens.
Yeah.
those things should be snapping like twigs, and instead they're out-muscling, fully grown, somewhat nourished men.
Sure.
And that's crazy.
Sure. So, any other movies you want to address? Before we wrap it up and pull 2 new movies out of the Muppet bucket?
Let's pull 2 movies out, man.
All right, we're going to do it.
Because nothing is popping to mind right now.
Watch, we're going to draw 2 new horror films.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something?
All right, mix them up nice and good here. Let's get this. Okay, I mixed them up pretty good.
All right, I'll reach in first. I'm going to close my eyes, too.
Man, he's really taking his time.
I feel like Sarah stuck in that razor wire room.
All right. What you got there?
I think I have 2. Do I have 2?
No, you got one that's folded over.
Oh, okay.
What you got?
Something called The Cottage.
A horror film.
Oh, boy.
It was from our horror bucket that got moved into here. That's a fun film.
It's written in my handwriting.
I
Or is it?
think you helped me write them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Shall
good.
I hold the bucket?
Sure, you can hold the bucket.
I've
right.
got my thumb right over Miss Piggy's eye.
I'm rooting for something that's not horror.
Close your eyes.
Oh, close my eyes. Okay. I think we're going to be okay here. It's from the horror bucket.
What the heck? Are we sure this isn't the horror bucket?
All right. You haven't seen this, right?
What's it called?
Well, before I say what it is.
I have not seen that, and 2 of my homies keep telling me, why have you not watched that yet? You got to watch that.
That's great. So both these movies you haven't seen, and I have.
I have not seen The Katahe,
How
and
did
I have
that
not seen that
happen?
movie. Are you going to announce what that is?
I'm just so amazed that
We
didn't-
put a lot of horror movies
not
in
that
there,
many,
though.
not compared to how many other movies we have like 100 regular movies in there. And
Still.
then we put maybe 20 horror films in there.
Okay, no, way more than 20.
I think our first list was about 10, and our second list was about 10. Pretty close.
Really?
And we drew 4, and we drew 4 out. So yeah, maybe 20. All right. So the second film
I feel like there were at least
is
30.
So I like both these movies.
Yeah.
I'll give a little blurb about both of them real quick. But the second film is a film called Big Bad Wolves.
Big Bad Wolves.
It's an Iranian film.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Iranian or Israeli? It might be Israeli. It's Israeli. I think it's Israeli. I should look that up before I start saying it's Iranian and Israeli. And it probably makes me sound kind of racist to not know the difference. I mean, I know the difference between the two, but I just don't know which one it is. Big.
I can't hit my falsetto like I usually do.
So, Big Bad Wolves, I saw at AFI Fest a year or 2 ago, and I really love this film.
Cool.
I think it's the story is excellent, and it's shot really, really well. It's pretty.
Nice. I hear there's a lot of torture in it. Is there a lot of torture in this movie?
There is some torture in the film.
I'm not great with torture movies.
You'll be all right with this. This is all right. I'm looking right now, trying to figure out. In 2013, Quentin Tarantino said it was like his favorite film of the year.
Nice. Now, I have looked up The Cottage.
So the movie is in English and Hebrew.
Oh, okay.
The Cottage stars Andy Serkis.
I'm looking at a 2012 and a 2008.
Which one has Andy Serkis?
I don't know. 2012 has David Arquette. Ah, here we go. 2008, Andy Serkis, Reese Shearsmith, and Jennifer Ellison.
So if you haven't seen The Cottage, go out and rent it. It's a lot of fun. It's sort of a combination of a horror film and a kidnapping film. And it's very funny. Intentionally so.
Oh, all right. That's good to hear.
Andy Serkis is, I mean, you're so used to seeing him play like Gollum and King Kong and the monkey, the apes from Planet of the Apes and stuff. You don't get to see him be him. You saw him in Age of Ultron for like 2 minutes. But
that's true.
You don't get to see Andy Serkis being Andy Serkis very often, and he is a lot of fun in this movie. Made a fan out of me.
I almost said sneet, but I meant to say sweet.
Yeah. So The Cottage...
Yeah.
And Big Bad Wolves.
The Cottage, 2008.
And while these are horror films, these are super, super worth your time.
Word. All right, that's good.
So that is it for
I like the sound of that.
This episode. Thanks again to Dwayne Sawyer for doing our intro every episode. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you, Viewsters, for listening. And don't forget to tweet us any sort of feedback at BTRT Movies. Or if you just type the @ symbol and start typing View the Right Thing, it'll switch it for you if you're on Twitter.
You can always hit our Patreon account if you want as well.
Patreon.com/
I believe it's VTRT Movies.
Oh, all right.
Someone got changed to that, I believe.
What if I want to tweet to you directly?
At Movie Hippo.
And then what if you were tweeting straight back to me?
I would probably tweet at Steve and NoHo Wood.
Okay. I like the sound of that. And keep watching movies. Watch The Cottage, 2008, and Big Bad Wolves. And then Wes...
Bon Cinema.